So a new discovery.
Antarctica.
Antarctica. Climate crisis.
Penguins. CNN.com. What matters? The world is stuck between gas prices and climate change. Oh, do we get to play some climate change jingles?
Since the beginning of time, man has yearned to destroy the sun. I will do the next best thing. Block it out.
Climate change. Climate change. Climate change.
Mass extinction.
Climate change.
Climate change.
Wow. This is a whole thing.
So intense.
The headline, you might be thinking, what is this world stuck between gas prices and climate change? What's this have to do with Antarctica? Well, let me tell you. The West needs more oil now. The world needs to get off oil and gas ASAP. These competing urgent realities are crashing into each other. Climate. The world is approaching a more catastrophic phase of climate change and needs to move quickly to reduce carbon emissions. Sanctions. Punishing Russia will raise prices in the West, particularly gas prices. Economy. High gas prices could help drive the U.S. into a recession and turn the outcome of the midterm elections in November. The result is an epic quandary of the oil addiction that runs the world economy. President Joe Biden announced a new plan Thursday that said he would address all the above by increasing the availability of oil in the short term. Yeah. We heard about that earlier today. More now, less later. Look, the bottom line is this, Biden said at the White House. He says that a lot, by the way, in most of his speeches. Between ramping up production in the short term and driving down demand in the long term, we can free ourselves from the dependence on imported oil from across the world. Okay, we know about the 1 million barrels of oil per day that Biden announced on Thursday. Will this work to reduce prices? Even Biden admits he doesn't really know. And the way the worldwide oil markets work, it will largely depend on how much other oil producers add or don't add to the production. At most, he said, we're looking at a cost decrease of 10 cents to 35 cents per gallon when the effect of additional oil on the market kicks in. We went from what? At least here, we went from like $4 to over $6. So,
that's what he said last time. This is the second time he's done it. He's doing it again. The first time it lowered 3 cents.
Right.
Not
Yay.
10 cents.
Thanks, Biden. Stuck between ambition and reality. CNN senior climate editor Angela Fritz told me Biden is, quote, stuck between progressive ambition to take meaningful climate action and the reality that the U.S. is still extremely dependent on fossil fuels and people want cheap gas. That does not mean there is not progress in terms of renewable and clean energy. They point out solar and wind and certain stuff. This is an important step with the Defense Production Act, since Biden has warned China has moved to control much of the global market of these minerals. In the meantime, the climate crisis is taking its toll. Delay means death. Just days into Russia's invasion of Ukraine last month, the UN warned in an alarming new report that the world is running out of ways to adapt to the climate crisis. So proof of the climate crisis.
Climate is closer, I think.
Definitely closer. Fritz pointed out that the reservoirs on the Colorado River are drying up, threatening the water supply for more than 40 million people. We're already seeing the beginning of how this will play out in cities and towns across the West. Jurisdictions that have water are going to start cutting people off. Corporations are buying up land with water rights so they can profit in the years to come. What about Bill Gates and BlackRock buying the water generating machine or whatever that we reported on the other day? Forecasters predicted that the West's extreme drought would push east this spring, and we're seeing that play out now. It's leading to extreme fire risks in the central U.S. and more fires and, all this acre burn. Unfreezing Antarctica. Here we go. Fritz also pointed to reports this week of a shift in Antarctica, which has so far been less affected by the climate crisis than its Antarctic. Start over. Fritz has pointed to reports this week of a shift in Antarctica, which has so far been less affected by the climate crisis than its Arctic counterpart. Sea ice around the South Pole continent has been relatively stable, but fell to record low this year. And then this month, temperatures on the Antarctic plateau shot to 70 degrees warmer than normal. As that happened, notice 70 degrees. They didn't. Is this? I'm assuming it's Celsius. But it doesn't matter. As that happens, a previously stable ice shelf disintegrated. Do we care about Antarctica? There's so much ice on the continent. If even a fraction of it melts, the world could be in for several feet of sea level rise. And then the daily reality of people. Antarctica is so far away, however, and many Americans might be more focused on the cost of getting to work. Why is California gas so expensive? And then it tells us. This is great. Why is California's gas so expensive? Oil markets are complicated. And it turns out that the $6 per gallon gas in California has a lot to do with an unscheduled outage at one major production facility in Torrance, which is a city out here in Orange County.
Sure, yeah.
Not Russia. Not Russia and Biden.
Wait a
even
second.
though Biden told us that it's Putin's fault, but in reality,
it's Torrance.
It's Torrance.
A lot of things are Torrance's fault. Isn't Torrance where the big blimp hangars are?
I think so. Yeah, Torrance has the Goodyear blimp. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe
there you go.
Has something to do with it.
I just think it's funny that CNN, that's kind of the big takeaway here. CNN in the conversation about gas prices and climate change, because climate change is trying to push all these politicians to move to more electric and renewable, sustainable development, renewable energies, all that stuff. In the meantime, we're having this oil shortage, which is causing the politicians a bit of a quandary. We've been talking about this for a long time, about this tension. But now here they are, and they bring up Antarctica as part of the conversation about climate change.
Yeah, kind of unneeded.
It's completely unneeded, which is why Zachary B. Wolf at CNN, they got a whole team listening to our show. I'd like to thank it's a team of monkeys.
Well, if nothing else, we spotted the trend that Antarctica is going to be
part of the
focus
climate change conversation.
It's always been part of the thing, okay? But I will remind everybody, usually when we are reading not even climate change, and most of the Antarctica journalism is not on your big boys. It's not on CNN. It's not Washington Post. Not New York Times.
We're bringing stuff from the travel, the travel website,
science magazines,
science, right.
Travel magazines, Explorer magazines, stuff like that. It's always kind of a little bit offbeat of an outlet, and I do think it is strange, especially because we just had all those science magazines talk about the warming in Antarctica was not because of climate change.
Right.
Definitely, absolutely not because of climate change. This was a weird event. It happened once in 2016. It happened, but it's not climate change. Stop saying it's climate change. And then in classic CNN fashion, it is like, oh yeah, look at Antarctica. It's climate change. Follow the science.
It's melting.
Like, guys, stop. Are you literally not paying attention to anything that the science is saying? And the fact that Antarctica just is, again, sort of shoved, sort of wedged into this CNN article about climate change, again, going completely against the recent science on the changes in Antarctica. But that doesn't matter. They just wedge it on in there, which more than anything is a sign to me that we're onto something as far as Antarctica being used as more like a character in the narrative, the control narrative. When it comes to the corporate news. And I think it was a good spot. It was a good spot because you really don't see that. And the fact that it's completely wedged in, unrelated, ignoring the science, et cetera, shows that they are using our good friend Antarctica like some sort of piece of, like a tool,
right?
For something it wasn't meant for. I think says a lot about the way that Antarctica is again, a focal point in government and climate and science and resources and economics, but also a focal point to be used in the same way for progressing narratives.
In the little segment under Unfreezing Antarctica, there's 3 paragraphs, maybe like 5 sentences or maybe 6. Within that, the last paragraph, they started the paragraph with, "Why do we care about Antarctica?" As if to say, wait a minute,
totally.
Why am I even writing about this? And then they answer the question themselves. There's so much ice on the continent. If even a fraction of it melts, the world could be in for several feet of sea rise. Oh no, climate change.
Yeah. Well, good spot.
Keep the fear moving.
Not as exciting as some of our other Antarctica things.
I think CNN bringing it is a big deal.
I would say it's more relevant in sort of a in a psychological operation way. Really, actually, this article, again, not as exciting or crazy as some of the other ones, but proves the point that we've been making.